Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for all my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I try to open your eyes and ears up to some of the travails and tribulations that take place throughout our cities, our states, our country, and sometimes around the world. And I'm coming to you straight from St. Louis, Missouri. We've had 2 weeks of extreme heat, a heat advisory. We had temperatures of 98 with a heat index of 108. It was a tough road for the last 2 weeks. And if you remember, on May 16th, we had a devastating tornado that ravaged through the city of St. Louis, especially the north side. So you have people that are homeless, that had their homes damaged or destroyed, and then from Mother Nature, and then subsequently Mother Nature followed that up with an extreme heat wave. So it has been a rough and tough time here in St. Louis. But I want to talk about what in the world is going on with the St. Louis City Jail. Here in the last couple of weeks, we've had another inmate to die at the hands of our Department of Corrections. This has been the 20th inmate to have passed away under the guise and the hands and direction of the Department of Corrections in the St. Louis City Jail. 20 inmates since 2020. It is now 2025. So from a mathematical standpoint, that is 4 inmates that are dying each and every year since 2020 in our St. Louis City Jail. That also equivocates to one in a 12-month period. That means that 1 inmate is dying every 3 months. So that is not a great statistic. I mean, just think if you unfortunately got arrested and ended up in the city jail, we're talking about 1 person every 3 months since 2020. That's 4 years times 5 years. 20 individuals have passed away. Those are not great statistics. So there are a lot of things that are going on. You know, we have this issue, this huge controversy where even the Attorney General, Andrew Bailey, has gotten involved with trying to remove the sheriff, Alfred Montgomery, from his position. The new sheriff, Alfred Montgomery, even in relationship to these inmates, Sheriff Montgomery decided immediately when he took office that he did not want the sheriff's department to transport inmates to the hospital anymore, and the sheriff's department had been doing it for over 20 years. He made a crass decision to end that at Mayor Kara Spencer's surprise. She was not aware of it. There should be different layers that are integral into making sure that the St. Louis City Jail is in a healthy, safe place. The mayor's office, the Department of Corrections, and of course the Sheriff's Department. And there should be some kind of judicial oversight over what's going on with the St. Louis City Jail. As you all remember, that safety has been a real issue in our city jails. We had this place called the Workhouse previously, and anybody that's followed that, Mayor Tashara Jones, the previous mayor, closed that place down. It was dilapidated, poor air conditioning or no air conditioning, poor heat or no heat. They had gladiator-style fights in that place. It was a very, very unsafe place to be held. And you have to remember, the St. Louis City Jail, or the Workhouse, was a holdover for individuals who were trying to wait for their court case to come up to see if they were going to be convicted or released from jail, or were they going to go to prison. But look at the word workhouse, and it has work in it, in the word, which is kind of antithetical in the sense that people that were at the workhouse were not getting any kind of training or learning a trade to be able to be acceptable in the workplace. So why they named it the workhouse, and remember, words and names have power, is really antithetical to what the place really was about. Fortunately, after years of pressure, there were many deaths. There were many assaults that took place at the workhouse. And then they transitioned to the city jail, which was supposed to be a better place, a new environment. But what you're finding out is that the negativity and the troubling things that were taking place at the workhouse have now transferred over to the city jail. What do I mean by that? We have understaffing of correctional officers. They're understaffed, they're underpaid, they're underappreciated. You got to remember that two of the toughest jobs to have is to be a city police officer, patrolling the streets, and of course, a correctional officer in the jails. They are the police officers of the jails to ensure safety of staff, inmates, and themselves. Where there's an understaffing there, you have equipment that is not working. You have jail cells that are not locking, that are staying open. That makes it a very hazardous situation for other inmates, for people that work there. As I said, for correctional officers, you have one correctional officer that is overseeing 50, 60 individuals in a module. That is unhealthy and unsafe. You have to think about with correctional officers and police officers, they are dealing with traumatic scenarios each and every day. They're underappreciated, understaffed, underpaid, and mental health issues could play a part in those two jobs as a police officer, correctional officer. PTSD from the things that they're seeing, the fights that they're breaking up, the potential for them being assaulted, harmed, and or killed, whether you're a police officer or a correctional officer. And it's a very, very tough job. As I say, we need more correctional officers. There's not enough in our city jail. And now we're seeing a uptick in a certain number of inmates that are losing their lives. And somebody needs to talk about it. One of the biggest vocalists that has talked about the emergency needs that are needed in a positive way for the St. Louis City Jail is Reverend Daryl Gray. In his organization, he's been outspoken about the health hazard, the unsafe conditions that are in the city jail, and these family members that have lost their loved ones in the city jail need to protest and need to be an advocate for making the city jail a healthy place. Going all the way to the mayor's office and on down to the head of the Department of Corrections, to the head of the Sheriff's Department, even Attorney General Andrew Bailey, who's going after Sheriff Alfred Montgomery to remove him from office. Maybe he needs to have some oversight on the St. Louis City Jail, let alone our Missouri governor. So let's get into what in the world has happened here recently in the St. Louis City Jail. St. Louis jail detainee who died in restraint chair wasn't resisting arrest, according to his family. The family of a detainee who died at the St. Louis City Justice System in the last few weeks said he wasn't resisting jail staff before being put in a restraint chair, according after watching the video of the incident. Samuel Hayes Jr. died later that evening. Jail officials said that Hayes got into an altercation with another detainee and that afterward he did not respond to verbal commands. Lawyers for Hayes' family said the video shows him leaving the jail cell and being handcuffed and falling over after being injured in the altercation. They say we saw him get put into a restraint chair with no need for it, and he was left there alone, said Jack Waldron, a lawyer for the representing the family. We saw very briefly that a nurse came to look at him and didn't appear to use any vital signs, didn't appear to examine his vital signs or anything else. And we saw him just die. Waldron and the family alleged jail staff failed to follow restraint chair policies leading up to Hayes' restraint and failed to monitor him, including not completing any medical vetting before placing him in the chair. You only get into that chair if you're continuing to resist, Attorney Waldron said. We saw Sam come out of his cell, and he was clearly handcuffed. The only way he gets handcuffed is if he's not resisting. He also says Hayes started convulsing about 5 minutes after being placed in the chair. If somebody had been monitoring him, they would have seen that he was very clearly convulsing and in medical distress, Attorney Waldron said. That didn't happen. So he continued to convulse for another 20 minutes, until he stopped and he was very still and not breathing. So this tells you right there, there's understaffing, there's a callousness, there's a certain level of inhumanity that's taking place in our St. Louis City Jail. Even if these individuals have committed crimes, they're still human beings. And just when you're listening to this and you think that you don't care what happens to inmates who are waiting for trial or even prisoners in prison, you very well could end up in that scenario. We never know when negative things or mistakes can happen in our lives, and we could end up in jail or prison, unfortunately. Hopefully not, but it could happen. So for our city jail to be an unsafe haven for inmates waiting for trial is not acceptable in a healthy, well-managed society. It also says that Attorney Waldron said the video shows people walking by Hayes without doing anything. He said an hour and a half had elapsed before anyone checked on Hayes. So he convulsed for 20 minutes. People were walking by Mr. Hayes, and for an hour and a half, nobody did anything, and people were walking by him as if he wasn't even a human being. He said, I don't want another parent that has to go through what I'm going through. I can't sleep at night, said Samuel Hayes Sr., the father. They just didn't help my son. Family said the video of Hayes' restraint only shows the top half of his body, leading to more concerns that the video didn't capture everything. The St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department officials said Hayes didn't respond to verbal commands afterward and was restrained in the chair. He was later found unresponsive and taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Hayes has been the 20th person to die in the city jail since 2020 and had been detained at the jail for over a year. His case has not even seen the day of light. And that was an issue with the past St. Louis City Circuit Attorney, who they had, Kim Gardner, who they had removed from office because there was a backlog of cases and people staying in the city jail for years and their cases not coming up to the court to find out if they're going to be convicted or released from jail. They had to get rid of Kim Gardner. The Attorney General had to get involved. The feds got involved. St. Louis City has to take a look in the mirror with their governance of how they're handling City Hall, the city jails, and our court systems. They say Mr. Hayes was facing first-degree murder and armed criminal action charges. The department's Force Investigation Unit is investigating. Officers also are awaiting the autopsy results. Mayor Kara Spencer said that her office will release the videos before Hayes died at the jail as soon as possible. And as of yet, that has not happened. Mr. Hayes died over 2 weeks ago. A spokesman for the Department of Public Safety said it couldn't comment on an open investigation. Attorney Waldron said the family expects to file a lawsuit against the city and will host a vigil for Hayes at 6 o'clock on Saturday outside the jail. And that was a week ago, and they did do that. But they need to do more and more protesting. They need to shed more and more light on the inhumane circumstances and the inhumane treatment of these city jail inmates that is taking place even before they go to prison. You always think about prison being such a harbinger for unsafe circumstances and situations in prison, but your city jails are sometimes more dangerous than your prisons. Just look at Cook County Jail. Just look at Fulton County Jail. Just look at LA County Jail. There is so much going on in these city jails that it's not even funny, with assaults, murders, all types of crimes, even before they're going to prison. There is a failure in our jail system and our judicial system to make sure that we have a safe environment, a public safety issue going on in our city jails. Hayes' mother, Anita Jackson, said that the jail deaths have to stop and that other families who have gone through the same situation need to stand up together. He wasn't the first one that died in the city jail, Justice Center. He's number 20, Miss Jackson said. Where are all the other families at? We need you guys here so everybody can represent and get something done to the Justice Center. Here again, look at the word. It's called the St. Louis City Justice Center. Is there justice being done in an unsafe environment, not only for the inmates, but for the correctional officers and this nursing staff, the administration that is at the St. Louis City Justice Department? Is there justice being done? That sounds like an acrimonious word and term. Justice is supposed to be at the highest merit for these inmates and for them to, and you remember, they are innocent until proven guilty. I don't see justice being ascertained in our St. Louis City Justice Center when you're having at least 20 individuals that have died in the last 5 years. That's 4 jail inmates that are dying each year. That's 1 every 3 months. Those statistics are alarming, harmful, inhumane, and hurtful to us as a society and the families at large of their loved ones. There needs to be more advocacy, more oversight. There's a lot going on in St. Louis City, which I would consider a mid-level or mid-size city in America. So what do you think is going on in our major cities, in New York City jails, holding jails, in Chicago, in Atlanta, in Fulton County? There has been a high premium of jail inmates losing their lives, major assaults that are taking place even before they have their court date and their hearing to see if they're going to be convicted or released. Some of our city jails, as I said, are more dangerous and harmful than our state prisons. Something needs to be done about it. Tell me what you think. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience.